Hey, buddy, hit that subscribe. Just a sec for you, but it means the world to me. After 12 straight years grinding overseas, I finally touched down in California. The second I stepped out of the airport, that ocean air hit different. Clean, calm, familiar. Dubai paid the bills, but San Diego still felt like home. In my bag, I carried two gifts I'd obsessed over for months. One was a high-end watch for my oldest son, Ethan, because the kid always had expensive taste. The other was something way more personal, a custom adaptive keyboard for Noah, my younger son. Noah had cerebral palsy, but his mind? Sharp as hell. Coding came naturally to him. The real surprise, though? A house. A fully paid, 3-bedroom property on Coronado Island. Bought years ago, legally under both my sons' names. A place where they could build a future together. I thought I was doing everything right, even from thousands of miles away. But the moment my Uber pulled into the driveway, my stomach dropped. The house was massive. Clean lines. Perfect landscaping. Luxury cars parked out front. But something was missing. No wheelchair ramp. No handrails. Nothing that said someone with mobility issues lived there. That didn't sit right. I paid the driver and walked up, tried to shake off the bad feeling. Before I could knock, I heard yelling coming from the backyard. Ethan's voice. Sharp, cold, ugly. Finish pulling those weeds before it gets dark, you useless weight. You want to skip dinner again? My blood went ice cold. I didn't knock. I moved around the side of the house, heart pounding like a drum. When I reached the garden gate, what I saw damn near took my legs out. Noah was on the ground, not in his wheelchair, away from it, like someone parked it just out of reach on purpose. His hands were filthy, scraped up, bleeding. His clothes were torn and cheap. And across his chest, written in thick black letters, house liability. My son, the kid I protected his whole life, reduced to free labor. Ethan stood over him with his arms crossed. Next to him was a woman, his wife, Claire, sipping wine like this was background entertainment. That's when I stepped in. Hey, Ethan. He spun around so fast he almost tripped. His face flashed shock, then panic. Then that fake smile I remember from his teenage lies. Dad? What are you doing here? You weren't supposed to be back yet. No kidding. I didn't even look at him. I went straight to Noah and knelt down. His eyes met mine, and man, they were empty, like someone had turned the lights off inside him. Let me help you, I said. I'm okay, he whispered. I don't want to be a problem. That broke me. You've never been a problem. Not once. I lifted him carefully, helped him back into his chair. He felt lighter than I remembered. Way too light. Claire rushed over with fake sweetness. Mr. Brooks, welcome. Noah was just doing some gardening. He actually enjoys it. I stared at her. That's funny. Last time I checked, Noah was studying computer science. Ethan jumped in quick. Plans changed, Dad. He wanted to contribute, pull his weight. I turned slowly. Pull his weight in the house I bought? That's when fear finally cracked through Ethan's face. Maybe we should talk inside, he muttered. No, I said. Where does Noah sleep? Claire answered too fast. The backyard studio. Studio was a lie. It was a shed. A tiny wooden box with a thin mattress. No insulation, no heat, no dignity. And that's when I knew this wasn't neglect. This was intentional. I took Noah's hands, looked him dead in the eyes. I promised you something when you were 5. I promised you'd always be safe. That promise didn't expire. Tears rolled down his face. I thought you forgot me. I pulled him into a hug. I'm here now. Behind us, Ethan and Claire whispered fast, nervous. Let them whisper, because tomorrow I was going to find out exactly what they'd been hiding. But what I didn't know yet was that my older son hadn't just abused his brother. He had stolen everything I worked for and forged documents that could land him in federal prison that I didn't sleep that night. Not a wink. My mind raced faster than my heart. I couldn't even trust my own eyes from earlier. Was it really as bad as I thought? Or had I finally been gone too long to know my kids anymore? I grabbed a bag, helped Noah inside the car, and drove to a nearby hotel. The kind with the big neon sign screaming comfort and safety. The kind of place where a kid could actually breathe. Noah stayed quiet, staring out the window, gripping the edge of his wheelchair. I didn't push. He needed space, but I needed answers. Once we checked in, I finally called my lawyer. The guy's name was Carter. Straight shooter, no fluff. Carter. I said, I need everything on the house, the property papers, insurance, anything. He went quiet for a second. Then, you're not going to like this. Turns out, Ethan had changed the ownership documents, swapped the names around. The house was technically still mine on paper, but he had inserted himself as a trustee, giving him complete control over all accounts tied to it. No rent, no access, no leverage from me. My sons were technically living in a house that legally belonged to him. I slammed my hand on the table. What the hell, Carter? That's fraud. He nodded. Yep, and there's more. I've got copies of emails and signatures. Looks like he's been laundering money, using the house, and even your savings as collateral for his side hustles. If we act fast, we can lock him out, but he'll fight dirty. Noah finally spoke up. Dad, I tried to tell him it was wrong. I told him, but he wouldn't listen. My chest tightened. I'd raised a kid who understood right from wrong, yet he'd been powerless under his older brother's grip. The image of Noah on the ground earlier burned fresh in my mind. I looked at him. You're not powerless anymore. Noah, we're taking this back together. Later that night, I decided to confront Ethan. I called him from my hotel room, letting him hear my voice calm but cold. Ethan, I said, we need to talk. Now. There was a pause. Then that same fake smile in his voice. Dad, it's late. Maybe tomorrow. Nope. Tonight. Everything you've done, I see it. Don't bother denying it. The line went silent. I could practically hear him pacing, calculating lies. Then finally a whisper. Dad, you don't understand. You weren't here. I was just trying to keep the house safe. I laughed. Not a happy laugh. Not joking laugh. Laugh of pure disbelief. Safe? You call enslaving your brother and stealing from your own father safe? You've gone off the rails, Ethan. He hung up. I knew then that this wasn't just about money or control. This was about power, about humiliation, about making my younger son feel small, because he could. I clenched my fists. Tomorrow, we'd start reclaiming what was ours. But tonight, I needed to make sure Noah felt like a human being again. We unpacked some clothes, ordered dinner, and sat in silence for a while. I watched him eat, careful, slow, like he hadn't been allowed to enjoy a meal properly in years. And for the first time since I arrived, he smiled. A real one. But deep down, I knew the storm was just beginning. Ethan thought he could hide behind forged papers and lies, but he didn't count on one thing. I had proof waiting in my lawyer's files that could not only expose him, but destroy everything he'd built. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. Noah was still asleep, peaceful for once, and I didn't want to disturb him. I grabbed my laptop, logged into my secure portal, and started combing through every account, every property deed, every transaction linked to Ethan. What I found made my stomach turn. Ethan had set up a secret offshore account, funneling money from my savings, the house funds, and even some of Noah's scholarship trust. The transactions were small at first, tricks to cover it up, but over time, millions had disappeared. All while he lived like a king, sipping wine in the backyard, laughing at the fact that Noah could barely sit comfortably. I slammed the laptop shut. Rage coursed through me, but no yelling, no screaming. That wouldn't fix anything. I needed strategy. I turned to Noah. Kid, you ready? He blinked at me. Ready for what? The first strike. We're going to hit him where it hurts. He thinks he's untouchable, but every empire has cracks, and we're about to find his. We spent the day documenting everything. Photos of the backyard, videos of the shed, screenshots of bank transfers, emails, the works. Noah helped quietly, typing out notes, double-checking figures. Watching him work, I realized something. For all the abuse, he'd never lost his brain power. In fact, the kid was sharper than ever, probably sharper than Ethan, who relied on intimidation instead of skill. By nightfall, I had enough evidence to confront Ethan, not just emotionally, but legally. But first, I had to see his face. I drove back to the house under cover of darkness, just to scope the place. The lights inside were on, loud music pumping. Ethan and Claire were hosting some friends-only gathering. From the driveway, I could see Ethan laughing, wine in hand, completely oblivious, or maybe just arrogant enough to think I'd never come for him. I called him on the phone again. No greeting this time. "Ethan, check your backyard." The music faded on his end. His voice cracked. "Dad, what are you—" I cut him off. "Check the shed. Now!" There was silence, then a shout. "What the hell?" I stayed quiet. I didn't need to explain. Within minutes, the chaos began. Neighbors probably thought a storm hit. I didn't care. Claire came running out next, screeching, "What are you doing here? You can't just—" I held up my hand. "Step back." Ethan was pale, sweat dripping. The shed door was open. Noah was inside, sitting on a thin mattress, holding the stack of documents proving the fraud. His eyes met mine, fierce. He'd found his voice. "You see this, Ethan? This is what you've done. You think I don't see? You think Dad doesn't see?" Ethan stammered. It's not what it looks like. Not what it looks like." I laughed harsh and cold. "Kid, you've been running a scam for years. You abused your brother, lied to me, stole millions, and forged my signatures. That's not what it looks like. That's exactly what it is." Claire's wine glass shook in her hand. "You can't do this." "Watch me," I said. Then I handed Noah the phone. "Call Carter. Tell him everything." Noah did. Clear, calm, precise. Every transaction, every forged document, every abuse detail. Carter confirmed in real time that we had a case strong enough to freeze all accounts and start legal proceedings immediately. Ethan's face went white. Claire's jaw dropped. And Noah, my Noah, he finally smiled, not a small, scared grin, but a full, victorious smile. But I knew this was just the beginning. Ethan wasn't going down without a fight. And if he got desperate, he could hurt us in ways I hadn't even imagined yet. Ethan thought money and manipulation made him untouchable, but he had no idea the storm I was about to unleash. And tomorrow, the first real strike hits, and he won't see it coming. The next morning, I didn't wait for Ethan to make a move. I knew he'd be scrambling, panicked, maybe plotting something reckless. I drove back to the house, this time with Carter in tow. A couple of private security guys followed discreetly, just in case Ethan decided to resist. Noah stayed behind at the hotel for safety. He didn't need to witness the storm. He'd already played his part. We parked down the street and walked up, calm but calculated. The house looked the same on the outside. Perfect landscaping, luxury cars, the whole facade of wealth. But the energy inside? Tense, shaky, exposed. Ethan opened the door himself. His face went from smug to nervous in seconds. "Dad, what are you—" "Quiet," I said. "We're done pretending." I stepped inside, and Carter immediately started documenting everything, the office, the desk, any computer files left open. Ethan tried to intercept, but I held up a hand. "Back off. You're about to see what happens when you cross me." Ethan's wife, Claire, tried to charm her way out. "Look, maybe we can—" "Shut up," I said. "You played a role in this too. Don't think I forgot." Then came the first twist. Out of nowhere, Ethan's friends started turning on him. Turns out, some of them weren't as loyal as he thought. They'd known about the offshore account, the forged documents, and even the abuse. They wanted nothing to do with him once they realized the heat was coming. Ethan's eyes darted around the room, panic rising. His empire of control was crumbling in real time. Carter moved in, explaining the legal ramifications. Frozen assets, federal investigations, potential criminal charges. Ethan's stammering grew louder, his lies falling apart. "You think you're untouchable, huh?" I said, letting the tension hang. "This ends now. And believe me, it's going to hurt where it counts." Then came the unexpected twist. A knock at the door. It was Detective Ramirez, a friend of Carter's from the task force. He'd been tipped off anonymously about the fraud, and he had questions. Ethan froze. Claire paled. Detective Ramirez stepped in, not threatening, but direct. We need to talk. Your cooperation could help. Or it could make things a lot worse. I looked at Ethan. No more smirks, no more lies. Just fear. You see, I said quietly, you thought you could manipulate everyone. But some people can't be bought or intimidated. Ethan collapsed onto the couch, defeated. Claire tried to stay composed, but her hands were shaking. I glanced around the room. Every document, every email, every fraudulent transfer was accounted for. My son's future, Noah's future, was secure for the first time in years. But something gnawed at me. Ethan had been reckless, dangerous, and I had a feeling he wasn't done yet. We left the house that night, Carter and I in the lead, and I couldn't shake the feeling of an unseen threat lingering. Ethan may have lost control, but desperation can be lethal. Ethan was cornered, but cornered animals bite hardest, and I had a gut feeling he was already planning his next move. Tomorrow, the revenge I never saw coming would hit us where we least expected. The days after the confrontation were tense. Ethan was silent, sulking behind closed doors, pretending compliance, but I knew better. Cornered animals don't stay cornered, they plan. I could feel in the air every time I stepped near the house or thought about Noah's safety. Noah and I were staying at the hotel, safe but restless. The kid kept asking questions, worried about Ethan's next move. I promised him, we got this, no more hiding, no more fear. I've got your back, always. But then the call came. Ethan's voice. Calm, smooth, too smooth. Dad, maybe we can talk. I didn't answer immediately. Something about the tone screamed trap. Meet me at the marina. Alone. Classic. Too predictable. I grabbed my phone, called Carter. It's a setup, but I'm going. We need to see what he's planning. By the time I reached the marina, the sun was dipping behind the horizon. Boats swayed gently. Gulls screamed in the distance. And there he was, Ethan, leaning against a sleek black yacht, Claire beside him, looking unusually nervous. You came? Ethan said, voice dripping with fake relief. Yeah, and you're about to tell me everything. He smiled. Or maybe I'm just here to say goodbye. I stiffened. Cut the crap. What's your game? Then came the shocker. Ethan revealed a secret he'd kept for years, a hidden family account. Not the offshore ones we'd found, but one even older, set up by my own father before he passed. A small fortune meant for emergencies, tucked away and untouched, and he had been siphoning from it for years. My blood ran cold. He betrayed not just me, not just Noah, but our family legacy. You think you can just take everything and walk? I said, furious. He shrugged. I thought I was smarter. Guess not. But that wasn't the worst part. He'd also planned something dangerous. An accident for Noah, a staged fall meant to make him look clumsy and justify more control over the house and the accounts. My heart sank. You're sick, I said, voice low and deadly. Ethan laughed, sharp and bitter. Desperate times, Dad. Desperate times. I didn't hesitate. I pulled out my phone, already recording. Cops are on the way. Carter's got the evidence. Your time's up. Claire panicked. Ethan froze. And suddenly, a shadow moved behind them. Detective Ramirez stepped out from behind a dock yacht. Quiet, firm, unstoppable. You were about to commit a crime, he said calmly. It's over, Ethan. Ethan's empire of lies collapsed in real time. The fear on his face was real now. No fake bravado, no fake charm, just pure terror. I stepped closer to Noah's side in my mind, imagining him safe and free from this nightmare. My son had endured too much, and I'd promised him freedom. Tonight, that promise was about to be fulfilled. And yet, a tiny voice in my head warned me, even cornered, Ethan could strike. And sometimes, the last strike comes from where you least expect it. Ethan had been exposed, cornered, and humiliated, but one final twist was still out there. A secret plan he'd hidden, ready to explode, threatening everything we'd fought for. Tomorrow, the ultimate showdown begins. The night air was thick with tension. Ethan was in custody, but I knew better than to breathe easy. He had spent years manipulating, plotting, and hiding secrets. I wasn't about to let him slip a final trick past me. Noah and I returned to the hotel, his hands gripping mine like he never wanted to let go. "Dad, is it over?" he whispered. "Almost, kid," I said. "Almost." Carter had already filed emergency injunctions. The house, the hidden accounts, every asset Ethan tried to claim, frozen. The federal investigation was underway, and the man who terrorized my family for years was finally powerless. But the true showdown was more personal. I couldn't just hand Ethan over to law and walk away. I needed him to face the full weight of what he'd done, to see the pain he inflicted reflected back at him. The next morning, I visited him in the detention center. He looked smaller, defeated, the arrogant smirk completely gone. "You really thought you'd get away with it," I said, voice steady but cold. I didn't mean," he stammered. "You mean?" I leaned in close. "You destroyed your brother, stole from me, lied to everyone you claimed to love. That's not an accident, Ethan. That's a choice. And choices have consequences." He stayed silent. Finally, "I'm done letting you hurt my family," I said. "You'll pay for what you did, not just legally, but morally, and I'll make sure Noah gets the life he deserves." Walking out, I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and relief. The fight wasn't just about money or control. It was about reclaiming my family, protecting my son, and proving that no one can break us when we stand together. Back at the hotel, I watched Noah play on his adaptive keyboard, coding a new project with that brilliant spark I'd always admired. The fear in his eyes was gone, the emptiness replaced with hope. And for the first time in over a decade, I felt like the father I was supposed to be, present, protective, and proud. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I sat with Noah and talked about the future. College plans, summer coding camps, dreams for a life where he wasn't defined by anyone else's cruelty. "Dad," he said softly, "thank you for never giving up." I smiled, ruffling his hair. "Never. You're my son. And nothing will ever change that." We had won. The law would handle Ethan, but we reclaimed something more important. Our dignity, our trust, our family. And in that moment, I realized that sometimes the greatest victories aren't about revenge. They're about love, resilience, and the courage to face the darkness head on. Ethan was behind bars, his lies exposed, and justice served, but the scars left behind would take time to heal. And while the storm was over, the lessons we learned and the bond we rebuilt would shape the rest of our lives.